Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to SF Capital's inaugural client and business owner event, How to Be an Influencer. Thank you. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tommy Lim, and I'm the Managing Director of SF Capital. We are a finance and mortgage broking firm that is dedicated to serving Australia's leading businesses and business owners in all their borrowing needs, whether it be home loans, commercial loans, or car and equipment finance. Before I begin tonight, I wanted to share something customary, which is to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. Okay, so also you might see a baby floating around. Apologies for that. That's because my wife and I couldn't find a babysitter. And so if you hear some screeching, that's not a bird, that's my son. Yeah, so why is a mortgage broking firm hosting an event like this? And why the topic, how to be an influencer? Okay, so on the first question, it's because I realized during the depths of COVID lockdown that I really missed real-world networking. And I promised myself that when things returned back to normal, we would host a cracker of an event. During that time, we also decided to position SF Capital as the broking firm for business owners. And to deliver on that promise, we decided we needed to go from having a client base to building a community. And hosting events like this and future events is a big part of that initiative. And why the topic, how to be an influencer? It's because I'm a firm believer that an important skill in business today is to learn how to build an audience and then communicate effectively to that audience at scale. And while the tools of social media and content creation are at our fingertips, it's not always natural to a business owner to use those tools to promote themselves. So on the topic of influence, I have 3 experts tonight, my brains trust, who are going to share their experiences on how they use social media to build their personal brands and to promote their businesses. So if you don't mind, please allow me to take a moment to introduce each of our panelists. I'm going to read this out because it's a bit harder to prepare their illustrious CVs. Okay, so first off, we have Lyndi Cohen, who is one of Australia's most trusted health experts. And fondly known by her Instagram handle and her book, The Nude Nutritionist. Lyndi is expert dietitian, author, podcaster, and the resident nutritionist on Channel 9's Today Show. She is also quite an entrepreneur, having developed the Back to Basics app, which helps people be healthy without dieting, and her Keep It Real program provides support and coaching for people suffering from binge eating disorders. Lyndi has over 130,000, I missed 30,000 there, followers on Instagram, and has a new book coming out in January, Your Weight Is Not the Problem. I kind of need that book now in December, Lyndi, but it's okay. I want to say an extra special thank you to Lyndi and her husband, Les, for joining us tonight while she's 5 months pregnant. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A big thank you for being with us all tonight.
Pleasure. And
next we have Steve Huey, who runs the travel rewards booking consultancy business, iFlyflat. And prior to this, Steve was an accountant at Macquarie Bank for over 10 years. Steve is famously known as the Points Whisperer. And let me tell you, this guy is a marketing machine, okay? Once you connect with Steve, you start seeing him everywhere, from LinkedIn to TV, to magazines, to newspaper ads, and more recently, airport billboards. I don't know how you did that, but that was amazing. In fact, Steve was the first of my personal friends to max out LinkedIn's 30,000 connections limit. Before that, just like the 4-minute mile, I didn't think it was possible. Steve's company mission is to help business owners use their credit card reward points to fly business class. And he is the expert in all things travel and frequent flight points.
Thank you.
Finally, on our panel, we have Danny Chiha, who is a partner at the accounting firm Kelly+Partners. Welcome, Danny. Danny was formerly a professional rugby league player, having played for the Lebanon national team before hanging up his boots to become an accountant. Interesting career switch. Danny's enthusiasm for small business and helping his clients succeed is infectious, and he regularly uses Instagram and video marketing to share his accounting knowledge, as well as promoting the vibrant culture at his home office, Kelly+Partners Northern Beaches. I also like to think of Danny as Kelly+Partners CFO, or Chief Fitness Officer, where he has recently trained 20 weeks for an amateur MMA fight, which he won.
Thank you.
And he is responsible for the firm's inter-office Fit to Freedom Challenge, where apparently things are getting a little too serious in terms of competition, those 6 Kelly+Partners people over there. Okay, would you please join me in giving a warm round of applause for our panelists, and we're going to kick things off. All right, I'm going to juggle the Apple Pencil and the mic and the iPad. Okay, Lyndi, I want to start things with you. Arguably, you've got the biggest audience and the most influence in the room. And out of my network, I would call you a professional influencer. So what does being an influencer mean to you? And how did you go from being Lyndi Cohen, the nutritionist, to Lyndi Cohen, the brand and influencer?
Okay, I've got to tell you, my parents are so proud that I'm an influencer. When I was young, they just said, I can't wait till you grow up to be an influencer one day.
That's like me and mortgage broking, so don't worry.
I think I'm an anti-influencer, to be honest. I almost kind of like, I'm embarrassed by the term influencer because I think it's become a bit dirty, and I think we've come to think of influencers as people who sell their souls to promote lots of products online, who, every single day they're working with a new product or a brand. Especially in the health world, there's a lot of that, a lot of people flogging a lot of products. And so for me, being an influencer, technically it's based on how many followers you have, and anyone above that 10,000, you're that micro influencer at that point, and then each level of Instagram that you kind of get, you get a blue tick. That's an endorsement to say you're even more influential.
When do you get the blue tick?
Oh well, a little bit ago. But
what number?
At what point? It's not actually a number. It's more of a verification to say like,
You're the real you.
You're the real deal.
Okay, you've arrived.
You've arrived. And it's quite coveted. But I think what's an influencer is not how many followers you have, but how influential you are. Someone who I follow quite religiously, every time she posts content, I'm there, sadly, watching everything she's posting. And if she's wearing something or talking about something, I am admittedly really influenced by her, and she's probably got about 10,000 followers at this point. And I'd say there are heaps of people who have hundreds of thousands of followers with very poor engagements, people who wouldn't be able to recognize them, know their name, know their brand, know much about them. And I think what is influential is really, you can have your niche, like a niche that you're really passionate about, and be very influential in that small niche, and people know you and recognize you. And I think that is what we really should be aiming for. And how did I get started? I started my private practice, bit of a GFC baby, got out of university, and there were no jobs, zero jobs. And I actually got my first job was working at a food company as a marketing and comms. So nothing that I studied. I studied nutrition and dietetics. And I honestly couldn't find a job, and that's what happened. I decided to start my own private practice. Private practice did not get off to a great start, but I kept pushing. And it's only when I started to work online, I really played with things like SEO, search engine optimization, so that when people would go on Google saying dietitian in my area, I came up. Quickly, things started to explode from there. I niched up, found like a really clear area that I can help people with, and I started speaking their language. Then I think I jumped on Instagram too late, to be absolutely honest. But I think we all have that sense of social media, being like, the tide has come and gone, I've missed it, what's the point in doing it? I still went ahead and did it, and I think that's a misconception that, I've lost my opportunity and it's done. I got on there and started posting really grainy photos of my breakfast, and we've come a long way since then, Tommy.
Yeah, I remember the times of posting food. It's moved on.
And just built it up and turned up consistently. And I think the point where things really changed for me was when I started moving away from just posting generic content and started having a real opinion online. And I think, you know, you have to stand for something, otherwise you stand for nothing. And I think that was very, very crucial for me to have an opinion. In the health world, call out wellness wankery, and there is a lot of wellness wankery out there, so I've got a lot of work for me to do. And I think that's really, people remember if you've got an opinion about something, but if you're just turning up online and sharing fluffy facts and a pretty photo, I think that's very forgettable. But if you're going to have a stance on something, I think that's pretty memorable.
Yeah. No, great tip, Lyndi, especially about having a quality audience rather than like quantity. I think that's really important. It's just a number, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving from something like wellness, nutrition, I wanted to go towards the more business application of social media. You know, I tried to make this sort of a business owners event. So Steve, Danny, you both share something in common. You're both accountants by training. Although Danny has the rugby league training behind him. So I wanted to, you know, when you think accounting, you think profit, ROI, P&L, balance sheet, the numbers side of things. So Steve, I wanted to ask you, how does a business owner know if using social media is right for them? And then for you, Danny, how does someone like an accountant or even real estate agent, lawyer, architect, health professional use social media to promote their business?
Right. How do you know if social media works for you? First, you've got to turn the mic on first.
You want my one?
Yeah, I think it's on now. Yeah,
Okay,
cool. How do you know? In my word, you don't know it works until someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, I see that you've moved to Melbourne. I see that. Oh, you went to that restaurant." It's like, how do you know this? The only way you'll know is because I posted it. And when someone comes to you and tells you what you posted, even though they did not comment, they did not like, you have no idea they saw it. When you see that often, then social media is working. But you have to go out to be accessible. Otherwise, if you continue to stay at home in your office, very rare will someone send you an SMS and say they saw you, because there's so many lurkers. So in a way, I love LinkedIn because obviously you can like it, you can make comment, but I reckon only 10% of the people ever make a comment and 90% of people are lurkers. So when I talk about lurkers, it's someone who's just seen it, they know it, but they don't want to make themselves known.
Making me feel creepy, I must be a lurker.
But lurking's not bad, it just means that you just observed it.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a comment, but you can tell when those same people you see at a networking event come and say, "Oh yeah, you've done this. It's like, that's when you know social media is working. But it doesn't mean that you're going to make any money from it. It just means that what you're sharing is being seen, and it then gives you feedback that, well, if what you're sharing is really useful or you believe is going to be helpful, you've now helped more people than if you didn't share that at all. So I just really feel like social media is just sharing something that you feel is quite helpful to someone else. And the more people that you help, the more people will help others. That's what I believe the networking effect is.
You, Danny, what are your thoughts?
That was actually really good.
We can tack on to that.
So, like talking about it from an accounting professional kind of sense, the idea that firstly understand that you don't need to have 1 million followers for it to be successful in business. Like we've built an accounting firm on the back of family and friend relationships from the influence that we have in our micro world. You know, it's the everyday thing where we post content and we think that we had 100 likes or 10 likes or whatever, but you go to the cafe and they're like, "Oh, I saw that video you did the other day, that was actually really helpful." And then like last week, a guy I haven't spoken to since year 6 in school was like, "Hey, can you be my accountant, by the way?" And so it's just having this micro impact that compounds over time from just showing up every day and understanding being the accountant, understanding the numbers behind it. So I need 1,000 clients to have a $10 million business. I don't need 1 million clients. I don't need to be the world's biggest influencer. Just need to have influence in that local network.
Yeah, what I see you do really well, Danny, is you really feel like you're a part of the community through your social media. That's something I've kind of noticed. Like you really feel connected to your team, and like I guess when you go out there to the northern beaches, you become the man. So to speak.
Lebanese in the northern beaches. Not
He said said it, not me.
That's literally like what we're trying to do is we're trying to build trust through a telephone, and it's really hard, but we're trying to break into that community and build trust so that I'm asking people to trust me with their money, which it's not easy for people to do. So
I'm sure we've all heard that expression that half your marketing budget works, you just don't know which half. I found it still worth taking that, throwing your hat in the ring for social media. Yeah. Okay, so thinking about the business side of things, I want to transition for the audience more about the actual practice of content creation, okay? Because we can all be lurkers, but to be on the flip side, to become a creator, what are some of the tips that you guys have for people to get started, to come up with their angle, to actually originate content? Lyndi?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was once speaking at an event, and a lady asked me, I was trying to think of blog content, and I thought I'd just work my way through the ABC and just pick something that started with each letter.
Okay.
Not the best strategy. I have a folder where we keep customer insights, and so I'm pretty passionate about storing away FAQs. So when I'm speaking to someone at an event and I'm getting asked a question about nutrition, you bet that's going into my FAQ folder. Every time I'm having a meeting with someone, it's kind of popping up. You know when you're at a cocktail party and people hit you up for free advice, back to the vault. And so now when we go to create our content, we can go, all right, well, this is what my customer base is very interested in. We're not shooting in the dark. And what's very important here is we're using the exact phraseology that our customers are using. I think we have a tendency.
That was a bird.
There is a tendency to paraphrase how our customers communicate. For example, as a dietitian, I might speak in third person, and I might say, Lyndi Cohen is a dietitian who's really inspired to help people transform their life, and you just get into weird language. But when my customer talks about their pain points, they don't say to me, I struggle with binge eating, and they say, I can't stop eating. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with my willpower. I just need to try harder. So rather than me guessing what their problem is, and sometimes it's going on forums and Facebook groups and going, well, this is the exact phraseology someone's using, then you reflect it back into the content. So the person watching it goes, they get me. They know exactly with this idea called night sweats. What's keeping your customer up at night? What are they tossing and turning about? And we don't want to paraphrase it, we want to serve it right back to them. And just another thing about this, where do we get content ideas from? If you are on social media, on Instagram especially for me, I keep a content folder where I see other people's content that I'm like, that's great, I love the way you've done that. They could be across industries, it's not just your own industry, and then you take that and you apply it to your practice, so that when I go to post stuff, I'm like, oh, what am I going to post today? I have a whole folder of inspiration that I can tweak and adjust and rejig to make it my own, because coming up with new ideas
You're talking on your computer, or you actually have a folder? I'm just curious.
I'm a millennial, I don't think I have anything printed out.
Okay. I just had that thought.
Everything's digitized, and across my different social media platforms, I would definitely have that as well.
Okay.
Well, I'm learning right now that the professional approach.
Yeah, but
I'm the complete other end. I'm sort of so ad hoc and random. So I'm the guy. Back in the days where you used to email jokes to people, you see a joke, you send it all to your friends because you think this is a damn good joke. You've got to share this joke. People need to love this stuff. So that's the same. That's me. So that's inherent in my body. It's like if I see content that's good, a tip that's good, or an article that's good, I just want to share it out because I believe in abundance. That the more people that can take advantage of this tip, or this sale, or this joke, or this Instagram, a dog that's climbing on a cat, it's funny, I'll send it out. So therefore, the way I do content is, if I see it, it's shared. I see it, it's shared. It might be 10 times an hour.
It's that easy, guys.
And off it goes. Because I don't hold back. The world needs to see the tips.
So you wouldn't say, Steve, you have any specific habits or things you do to stay on top of the game? Because I do see you everywhere. It's more like you're just that guy, you're
sharing.
Catch and pass.
It passes.
Yeah.
Because I can't keep it because that's another job.
Yeah.
I see it as good is out there. See it as good is out there.
Yep.
I'm actually probably between the two of you, where there's a little bit of that and there's a little bit of that. Where like if we're going to film pre-recorded content, we like back it up and we'll do an hour and we'll just punch through 6-7 videos. But I think the beauty of that is don't overthink it, because it's going to work. Like the reps are more important. Being there, being present is more important than being perfect or pre-planning or going freestyle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being an accountant, Danny, and I've watched some of your videos, you have a real skill in making the complex simple, the boring interesting, the impersonal personal. How do you is there a process that you go through to come up with engaging content that people want to watch or let alone understand?
Accounting's pretty exciting, so that but there's not a massive process, so I think some of that's like just natural of how I approach
how you
things.
speak,
but I think being authentic is probably a big part of it. I'll actually swear a bit sometimes. I think that actually connects.
I've heard the F-bomb
I'll speak fast on purpose sometimes because I think it's a bit more engaging. So there's some stuff that's pre-thought.
Yeah, you also do a lot off the cuff, I've
Heaps.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, heaps off the cuff.
Just a natural, hey?
No. You're talking about something you know, so it's a lot easier than if you told me to sit here and do what you're doing today, where you had to pre-write and read something. I couldn't do that. But if you say go speak about debits and credits, let's go.
Okay, so sticking to what you know is a good tip. Would you say?
Yeah.
Well, I will say you all make it look so natural. But look, I know behind the scenes it's quite hard work. So I did want to do a bit of myth busting, what the actual work effort is involved here. And I know there's different philosophies. We've already kind of heard about it. What is the real work that goes into creating content, and what do people not see behind the camera? On that glossy Instagram photo or, that reel.
For me, I think it's very much into my personality. It just comes in, it goes out.
Just like freaking fly points, guys.
No filters. My wife always says, you got to send that out. It's like, what's wrong with the photo? There's someone in the background. Well, the guy's there. You see, he is what he is. So it's just sort of for me, it's very much, it literally is in and out, because I don't want to be the one holding the information, because I feel like that's work. If I had to schedule it, that's work. I don't want to, I think my philosophy, I don't want to do the same thing twice. I just do it once. So it's very much, my philosophy is literally it's not too precious. You're just sharing useful information. It's just tips. And people take the core content, they'll benefit from it. So you don't have to make it perfect. And I don't want to spend time making it perfect, because otherwise nothing ever gets done. Because how do you know it's perfect?
Yep.
Nothing's perfect. So there'll be no content.
I'm going to add to that, because that is pretty much everything that you, that's the most important thing when it comes to posting on social media. Perfection is paralyzing. And I had a real transition in my engagement and everything once I stopped trying to turn up as the version I thought I should turn up as. And I work with brands occasionally, and they will put a lot of money into curating these very beautiful kitchen sets, and they'll tell me exactly what words I need to say, and the way I hold the product is just so. And that product, that kind of content doesn't do that well. And I want to say to the brand, and I do say to the brand, hey, you know what does really well? Behind the scenes. Unscripted, unthought about. There's kind of this idea of just putting stuff out there. And you might think to yourself, well, who really wants to see a photo of me and my team just sitting out for lunch? People do. People like people.
Hey?
People are fascinated by reality TV. And not to say you're going to become a reality TV star, but try to think about it as you're just capturing little moments of your life. Of course, we want to curate a little bit. This isn't just me using Instagram as a therapy session. I pay someone a lot of money for that. This is very much a process of you going, well, this is relevant to my people. And going back to that FAQ thing, we know who our audience is. We want to speak in their language. We want to be giving stuff that they are going to be interested in. So we're not sharing, okay, well, I stayed at this really nice Well, maybe you are, a nice hotel. That seems like a good strategy. But for me, I stick to my lane. I know food. This is what I'm talking about. I know who I'm talking about. So everything related to that, we're capturing content, and it's a bit arduous sometimes to think, what am I going to photograph or what am I going to film? It doesn't even have to be you in the shots, although I would say you do want to get a ratio where your face, people like faces, so ideally on social media, your face is your profile photo, especially if you are a brand, we want to see people, we connect with people. So I'd say every 9 posts or whatever, put a photo of yourself in there. But it
9 out of 10, your face, or like...
1 out of 10.
1 out of 9.
Oh no, 1 out of 9.
1 out of 9.
Oh, okay,
every at minimum for everyone. Posts that include a face are going to outperform everything else, but it can be just a scene of things going past, and that's the content. So don't overthink it, and it has to be curated. In fact, those filtered things don't really do that well, in my experience either.
Danny, any comments?
Yeah, like for us, there's probably a combination again of the 2 answers where you can go do a whole lot of work and get things perfect, but there's plenty of space for just off the cuff, kind of do what you're doing. I think most of the work that goes into social media is mental. It's we all sit here and we spend so much time overthinking what we're going to do and getting over that barrier of like people care what I'm going to say or like judge me for it kind of thing. And just starting, like there's more mental work than there is.
Yeah, you think the spotlight's on you more than you think, hey?
Yeah. No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
And, well, you know what? No one cares. No one cares to judge you. Like the people that care, your audience, your community care, and they follow you and they get on board to the journey. But like no one's sitting there judging you. Just have a crack.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that concept of blockers and things that kind of stop people from posting, I guess another one is the amount of channels that you can be on.
Yeah.
You got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got TikTok now, YouTube, podcasting, Lyndi, which we'll touch on. So how do you guys decide which channel to post on? And if you're managing multiple channels, how do you go about that?
Oh, you can start, Danny.
Anyone? Yep.
I didn't decide actively. I just started on what I understood.
Yeah.
I actually like speaking about TikTok. Like it becomes overwhelming when you got to go learn a new platform just because it's like a new skill. Again, I'm not trying to build 20 million followers. I don't need it. So I've stayed in the comfort zone of what was working and what I was doing. If I'm sitting there going, hey, I'm trying to be like an influencer and build properly, every time a new platform comes out, I'm trying to learn it and understand it and build into it. But I think naturally you're going to stick to what you understand as a starting point, and depending on your ambition there will determine how far you go into other places.
Yep.
But should you learn them? Yes.
Cool.
How much time do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't have an infinite amount of time. So where is your customer? Where are they turning up? Are they on LinkedIn? For me, I speak to generally women aged 25 to 55. So where are they hanging out? And that's where I want to turn up. Also, you're thinking about that format. What's your strengths? If you enjoy public speaking and you can get in front of a camera, you do that. You be that person. But if not, we can play to your strengths a little bit. So for me, I like doing YouTube, and I can get quite a bit of success on YouTube or Instagram stories and reels where I do speak to camera. And that just plays to my strengths. I'm not on TikTok. I don't do Twitter. I'm barely on Facebook. Definitely not LinkedIn. So I'm just prioritizing where my audience is, because where do people want to know about the stuff that I'm talking about? It's not in a professional format. So go where your people are.
No dances?
Yeah,
Steve is the man on
No
LinkedIn.
dances.
So
No dancing on TikTok.
yeah.
I really, really love LinkedIn. If I'm not on the panel now, I probably would have been on LinkedIn right now. So I'm happy, yes. But I'll say whatever makes you feel comfortable, because you don't want to feel like it's work. So therefore, if you feel like it's work, what happens is you put it off, and then you feel like I've got 5 posts to do and 10 posts. So you just want to do it, feel like it's comfortable. So yeah, just like you said, if you feel like comfortable being on camera, then YouTube or Instagram, anything that's video related will make you comfortable. If you're great at writing stuff, then articles and stuff can be shared on LinkedIn. So just do whatever you believe comes naturally to you, but doesn't feel like work, because you are already working. You don't want more work. The magic is to try and get less work.
Always a lifestyle guy.
So the aim is to use social media to sort of like do a little bit of work to get more business, so you can eventually work less. I think
You don't like work, do you?
Well, I'm not going to do more work to get more work.
That's great.
Okay, so on the topic of work, I perceive that it takes a lot of work to put together a podcast. Lyndi, I have been listening to No Wellness Wankery. I don't think I'm the target audience, but I have actually enjoyed a few episodes. Look, I see that as sort of the next kind of thing that people want to do if they're really treating being an influencer professionally. How did you go about setting up your podcast, and what was your thought process around that for those people that might think of that as a marketing channel?
Let's talk about the beauty of a podcast. I'm plugging you into my ears, or I'm driving and you're in my car with me, and I am devoted to you. I am committing to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour with this person who's going to be the person I'm really connecting with that brand. This is so different from Instagram, where we're just kind of flicking past and we're kind of like giving them a bit of a thought. You have their time, you have their energy, they're with you. So we have a chance to give them real value, to show our worth, to go, right, well, if I can help you this much in a free 20-minute podcast, how much could I help you if you actually got my services? And that's the sell. So what we're doing is we're always kind of going, what can I give you here? And it's an opt-in. So with my podcast, No Wellness Wankery, very clear what it is about. It's about adding value to my people, about the topics that they want to hear about. So it's a lot of free content for me to then go and create. But people are coming back to me and saying, I listen to your podcast, I trust you. I really trust you because I've listened to you enough to build up my trust. And I think that's very powerful. Technically, how do you go about doing it? There are some ways to make it very simple. I've tried to make it as simple in my life as I possibly can. So there's a software you could use called Riverside. If you do go into podcasting,
Riverside, everyone, please
Riverside is brilliant.
Yep.
It films you at the exact same time you're doing it so that you could then turn that into Instagram, social media, LinkedIn content with a click of a button very easily. And I would encourage you to get a podcast producer if you have the time. So basically, it gets uploaded to the software, someone else logs in, they edit it down, they splice it together, they upload it with show notes, and you're committing to that time of filming and recording. For me, I chose 20 minutes is generally the length of the episode I like. That's what I like to listen to personally, and I feel that's much more doable. So me and my co-host, I have a co-host who makes it very easy for me I couldn't just talk about myself for 20 minutes. Obviously, maybe
co-host.
I can.
Co-host sounds like a good tip, yeah.
And she's my co-host and she makes it happen. We do 8 episodes back to back. And so we're filming 2 months worth of content in 1 day of recording. And it's been a very incredible, very low impact compared to something like YouTube or Instagram that take way more of my effort. It's been quite a nice way to build trust with my customers, and I enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah, that was a good myth bust. For listeners, it looks like a lot of work. I guess it is a lot of work, but maybe you've set up a process that is not as bad as people. Not as heavy a lift.
And if you know your topic and you're going to talk about something interesting, I think there's some podcasts where they just waffle and I'm like, you got to think more about your content, buddy. But if you're going in there with a bit of a plan and you know you're going to serve people and help people, keep it short. I've seen podcasts where the whole concept is we have 8-minute episodes. 8 minutes, you could talk about an area that you know that's 8 minutes and convince someone that you're the person to trust on this topic. I think that's quite compelling.
Cool. Well, I have learnt about intuitive eating. 5 to 6
No wellness
servings
wankery,
of
everyone.
vegetables, crowding out my meals with more vegetables. So
Good.
those are some tips I picked up from Lyndi.
Good.
Okay, I only got a couple of questions left before we, throw it to all of you, the audience. You mentioned you had a producer, Lyndi, so I picked up on that. I do want to touch on that. Do you advise people, like all of you, to get external help? Like I guess early on it seems social media is very DIY. Whereas shout out to Social Wave, the guys with the cameras, they help us with with distributing and creating social media content. Do you recommend getting help? And what do you guys do versus what did that help do?
It's a bit what Steve was saying, like don't do too much work that you don't want to do. So the filming content and stuff, like you said before, like I can naturally jump on and we can do that part. The second that camera stops, I don't want to deal with it because I hate that part of it. It's really
Well,
just
imagine
work.
accountants on editing software.
Yeah, it's not
pretty.
it's not good.
It's like me.
So Natalie, who's here, she runs an agency and they manage all our stuff from there.
Yep,
So.
shout out to Natalie. Okay.
And
See?
I think even if you don't get someone professional, even you might just do like a contra agreement with a friend who's in that area, or maybe someone in marketing. Because the things like, you're always self-conscious, you record this and go, who's going to want this piece of crap? Like, that's what you're sort of thinking in your head. But if you show it to someone that you work in your team, they go, oh, it's actually really good. You go, yeah. My idea, wasn't it? So you need that sort of feedback, you need that sort of feedback loop and that confidence booster, because you're always second guessing. The thing is, because you're an expert in your area, your thing is so natural to you. You go, oh, everyone knows this. Who's going to listen to this? But no one knows, because you're the expert and they are not. So that's why sort of I do encourage you to share what you know, because you can't assume that anyone knows anything about what you know. And then when you create content, you sort of think, this is super basic. I could have should have went super detailed, but you show it to your friend or someone who's working with you, and they are not the expert. And they'll read it, watch it, read it, and they'll go, yeah, this is actually really good. And then that's where you get the confidence to keep creating the same content. Because you can't talk at a level that, if you're talking to someone who knows what you're talking about, why would they read the stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've worked with quite a few different people to try and create my content. One of the challenges I have in my business is called Lyndi Cohen, which is my name, and so it's very hard to kind of replace me and replicate me, but I think it can be done. There are some interesting things we've tried. I've had a ghostwriter who really helped me with PR, caption writing, all that kind of arduous stuff. And she would call me and we'd have interviews. And so she would record the interviews, and basically she's taking notes and she's going, all right, well, that's a caption and that's a PR piece and this is that. And so she would then be able to share that stuff with me. You could record voice notes and share it to someone, and they then translate that and turn that into a caption. So think about how ways that you can have this minimal impact. Another way might be, for me, I've got blog posts or anything you've ever written, a speech you've written. Someone could take that video and turn that into content. That is, everything can be reused and regurgitated and used in different platforms. So just always thinking about those ways you can do it. I do think it's quite challenging to kind of constantly create content, and that is one of the challenges, because when we're on social media, you do have to be consistent. You do have to turn up to build that trust. So having help and multiple people, I've got multiple people in my team now who help me do that stuff, and they know my language. I have certain phrases that I'll use. I have phrases that I say, you can't use, wanky words, so we eliminate those. I actually have like a writing guide. These are the things, this is what I would say and what I wouldn't say. So you might go, well, this is the tone of our business, and they would write towards that tone. So there are ways that this can all be done.
Okay, so you can
by someone
outsource
else.
the writing. See, these are the next level tips.
And
that
it sounds-
I'm trying to write it myself. I'm
Sounds like
banging
you.
in the head sometimes. Okay. All right. I have one more question, and then I want to open it up. Okay, so I think you guys touched on this, joining Instagram too late. Okay, or whatever it might be. We all begrudge if we're trying to come up with this content, perhaps missing the boat. So that our guests here, perhaps don't miss the next boat. What are the sort of trends that you guys are seeing in social media, whether it be strategies, platforms, channels, things people are doing? What's the wave that you think everyone should catch?
I think LinkedIn is definitely not too late to jump on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still, I guess, in the early stages before all the marketing people come on and ruin it, because all the marketing people have already ruined Facebook, already ruined Instagram.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is still a sacred horse, so to speak, because the LinkedIn business model is not advertising. It's selling licenses to recruitment companies. So therefore, it's a little bit harder to ruin, but it will come. So if you don't jump on now, then you'll be waiting for the next thing.
And then you're on TikTok, guys.
Yeah.
Dancing and singing.
So I don't think it's too late, because it's a bit like, if you don't get on board, there might not be the next ship, there might not be it. And plus, it's also just about habit and learning, because if you don't, even if you hop on something and you're not fully whole into it, it's the habit of putting yourself out there. How does that feel to you? And then you get comments, because the more you do it, the more you become they'd be more comfortable with it, and then if there is a next big platform, then you could be the first to jump over. But don't wait until the next big one and then think that all of a sudden you're going to be a talk show host if you've never done any talk show hosting on an amateur basis, or you've never done public speaking is a good example. You can't just become a keynote speaker if you've never done any public speaking. You've got to like build yourself up, build a practice, feel the sweat. So you deciding wipe the sweat off and not wipe the sweat off. You've got to work all this stuff out. So that's all about practice.
Well, if you want to speak to Gen Z, TikTok, great. I have issues with that kind of social media platform, which is very transient. It's very, I don't care about the creator. I'm here to be entertained. So think about, why is someone using the social media platform? I use LinkedIn to connect. It's actually how I met my husband.
Oh, wow.
It was a while ago, everyone. We connected. Pinterest is something, probably a little bit different, but Pinterest is somewhere where people go to plan their lives. So I'm going to do a renovation, I'm going on Pinterest. I'm going to think about new wardrobe, I'm thinking about menus, I am going on Pinterest. So think about, that's a place where people go to plan. What am I doing on Facebook? I'm there for friends and family, very much so. So if your business fits within that, I think it's a good space. Instagram is very much about that inspiration, and YouTube's about learning. So is podcasting. So how do people want to engage on that social media, and how does your business play into that social media is the question, and where is your audience?
Okay, Danny?
In terms of trends, I think Lyndi touched on this before around being authentic. Like the trend that we were speaking about before was about essentially like being your real self. The more polished stuff is now, the less it seems to work. My wife says she built a business essentially. What's
it called?
The Little Homie.
Little Homies.
Does amazing. But she built this business, and when we first started it, she makes kids products, and she created this book. It's called A, B to Jay-Z. It was pretty crazy. And she sent out like books to all these influencers, and they were doing all these polished videos, and we went and spent a lot of money to do a production for this product, and like it's working, but it's getting some traction. And then this random authentic video of dad reading the book to the child that was the most unpolished thing you've ever seen in your life, got 35 million views and built the whole business overnight. So without, we didn't plan it, we didn't know, it was really authentic and really cut through.
Yeah, you actually don't know yourself what hits it out of the park.
No,
hey, that's what
there's zero reason.
Yeah.
In terms of timing, like trend timing, an investment kind of world thing, there's a story about like a Kerry Packer getting his shoes shined by some guy who's giving him stock tips, and that was his trigger to go and get out of the market, because people, by the time you get to the point where the guy shining your shoes is buying the shares,
too late.
It's probably too late.
Yep.
So, and it's a natural kind of reaction of like human nature is we wait so long until something's fully validated before we're jumping on board to the bandwagon, and it becomes just a pattern that you'll do your whole life. So avoid the pattern of like waiting till it's mass adopted before you move, otherwise you end up broke because Kerry Packer sold and everything goes down.
Okay, well, I hope you're not holding any cryptocurrency.
Wait, classic example, it's exactly the same story.
Okay, so I want to open it up to the floor. This is an opportunity for all of you to ask Steve, Lyndi, and Danny questions about using social media, content creation, influence, whatever it might be. I will give up my mic as well so that there can be 2 roaming mics, but yeah, anyone? Andrew. Maybe Lucas, both sides.
Thanks, everybody. Fantastic comments from all of you. Really appreciate it. How do you approach listening to your audience, listening back, listening to your customers? Steve, you talked about the lurkers. They're not going to give you anything back, but they'll say hello in the cafe. Danny, you talked about being authentic, and then Lyndi, you sort of talked about delivering content in language that they understand, that they're already expressing. But how do you know if you're actually delivering something they want? How do you know if you've gone off track? How do you not read every comment and just get bummed out by all the haters? Thanks.
Good question. And also, I've reached a point now where I've had haters. It's really it's an interesting place to be. Not recommended. How do we get to a point? Sorry, I forgot the question. Baby
It was
brain.
listening to your customers.
Ah,
Maybe listening to your customers.
listening to my customers. How ironic. Maybe someone else should answer it. I think experimentation is really critical. So, like you're going to throw some stuff out there and you're going to see what lands, and sometimes it's surprising what ends up landing. You're going to just try a few different angles and see what works. You can look at the industry and be like, well, that's successful for that person. That seems to be a formula that's translating well. Sometimes it's like a 10-second quick little video. But I do swear by, and if you looked into my like online digital folders, you're going to find like at least 20 different pages where I have captured the exact language people are sharing. And once we start to see trends, this is the exact phraseology they're using, and people use the exact same phrases again and again. You're mirroring that, and you're finding new takes on the exact same stuff and the same questions, the same pain points. You might go like, what are the highest FAQs on this topic? And those are the things that you start to create content around first, and then build from there.
Okay. So 2 questions over here, Bob.
Hi, so the question is around SEO and when you first started, Lyndi. In terms of when you were first learning, like what made, like how did you go about it, finding those keywords, and what tools do you guys use?
So SEO is not my strength, and it's a whole niche in and of itself. So nowadays we have someone who does SEO, but it was me hacking away, building my own website, just trying to come up with keywords. This was an earlier iteration of SEO. Things have changed since then. For me as a local business, getting dietitian St. Ives, which is the place I was practicing at the time, was really critical. And that's something called Google My Business, I think, where they'll verify your location so that you're going to come up on the map. And you really want to, that means you're going to be within the top 5 hits. So that is an essential thing if you have any kind of business where you're trying to attract local customers, accounting, or, you know, all that. A doctor would be a great example of that as well. So that is an essential step that I would absolutely, you have to go home right now and do that step. Beyond that, I personally picked, my words were media dietitian, so much so that was laced into my website content, and we want to make it subtle. You don't want to be obnoxious about it, but it is part of you and what you're talking about. Even that when you're uploading images to your website, you're using your keywords and you're placing them, that's what the image is called, so that it's really enhancing another step of SEO there. And it got to the point where, you know, a few years later, Channel 9 called me and said, hey, we see you're a media dietitian. I was like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And then I got my audition on Channel 9, and that was 6 years ago. And I think sometimes you just have to position yourself the way you want to be positioned and carve out your little spot. And also I think about competition when it comes to SEO. We want to look for stuff that's, of course there's stuff that everyone's asking the questions and everyone's answering those questions. There are questions that no one's asking and barely any people are looking for, but we're looking for things that aren't too competitive. And we use SEMrush. SEMrush is a tool that we use that is excellent. Anything else?
So what the professionals use, guys.
Sometimes like long tail keywords and things like that are quite specific but a high intent for purchase or interest.
Yeah, so like binge eating for us is very niche, right? So we hone in on our topic as opposed to how do you eat healthily? Very vague. So you want to be more specific, and that's going to mean that you're more likely for people to one of my best performing pieces of SEO content is a blog post called I Feel Fat. Because one of the ways that people use...
Not iFlyflat.
But they might come to your site. Because the way that people use Google is not the way that we think they do. We think they sit there and they ask questions. How do I lose weight? Might be the flip of that. But no, they're sitting there and they type in the problem they have in first person, in the language. So if you're mirroring and you're using the language that they're using in first person as they're asking it, you capture a lot of people, and that's a big one for me. And yeah, think about that.
That's good. That's good. So another question. Yeah, Kwan?
Sure.
Dr. Vo, should I say?
Thanks for very entertaining discussions this evening. You mentioned a few times that there was a big mental component to overcome to step into this arena to be, in the spotlight. For people who may not be naturally inclined to be extroverted, may have
more of an introverted personality, what tips would you have for them to make those first few steps?
Yeah, I can probably answer that because so my background is in accounting, so naturally introvert. And when I started my business, like if you speak to my high school friends, they can see that I've not a completely different person, but much more extroverted than. So I believe I'm still an introvert because that's where I get my energy from. I'll happily spend time by myself, but in order to promote your business, you sort of have to be more extroverted because I come from the angle that if I don't tell people, how is anyone supposed to know what can happen? So how is anyone supposed to know that they can turn their frequent flyer points into first class if I don't do the spooking? That means that they're going to continue to fly economy unnecessarily.
Sacrilege to Stephen Hui.
And that's like, why would you? If you knew 10 years down the track that you could have been first class all that whole time, like, you got to get onto it. So I think it literally is just that. I read a quote some time ago, and I can't quite remember it, but you got to look a little bit foolish to achieve what you want. And Danny talked about earlier, literally everyone is thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. So if you walk down the street with your zipper undone, no one would ever have a clue. You think how many people saw it? No one saw it because everyone's just thinking about, oh, what time I'm going to catch a bus, or like, I'm going to answer this email. Literally everyone's thinking about themselves. So I think the magic is you sort of think that everyone's honing in, but literally I reckon they probably notice 10% of what you put out, which means that you've got to put out a lot of content for them to start noticing you. And literally, I could have my zipper done and done now.
Check it.
Has anyone noticed? No.
Yeah.
On like that same point, like there's a massive imposter syndrome piece that we all have. Like it's like, I feel like I don't have the right to say this. That's kind of one element of, I feel like when people are starting, we have to kind of overcome. I think the other part of it is, this isn't scientifically proven, this is just from a few people I've spoken to in my experience. In your own head, you picture like these one or two people that you know in your circle who are going to judge you. And you think that the whole world is those two people, or those three people, and you think that's what's going to happen. But those 2 or 3 people are probably just dickheads that you probably shouldn't hang around anyway. And the rest of the world doesn't care, as you're saying. So I think overcoming those two things, like the imposter syndrome piece, you're an expert in your field. You said it before, if you just simplify your content to those key things, that will deal with the imposter syndrome and just get rid of the dickheads out of your life.
No dickhead policy.
No dickheads.
Just like Tattlesall's Club.
Can I just add one more thing? Just for my introvert friends, I feel like there are two main pathways, two very important pathways you can go down. I bought a mattress, and I bought it without ever lying on the mattress because I looked at the reviews. And I thought, enough people have tried this, enough people have vouched for it, I believe in this business. Reviews are an incredibly untapped resource that we should all be optimizing. And it is as simple as, after having a positive interaction with a customer, we're saying to them, hey, I feel like this went really well, do your own language. Would you mind leaving me a review? It might be an automation as part of the way that you're nurturing your customers, and you're saying, hey, please leave us a review. If someone's had a genuinely positive experience, you're going to get lurkers and voyeurs who don't do anything, but you're going to get the 10% of people who say, I value what it means to read a good review, and I like leaving a review. So reviews, and I would go down and I would double down on that strategy almost before going down social media. But if you do go down social media, knowing that those reviews are content. So recently we did something as part of our program where I said to customers who I'd had, I said the first 10 people who get back to me, I'll give you a free one-on-one consultation, which is not something I do anymore. And in return, if you want to give me a testimonial, you could say negative things as well. It was open to like good and bad feedback. And we record it and we use that as part of marketing, and the rush of people to respond to that was really impressive. And now that is part of our marketing, it's part of our social media, it's part of our play. And that is something that you don't have to turn up on camera, but someone else is probably going to be willing to say, I vouch for this. And that is so much more powerful in a way to have a third party going, I recommend and I endorse this person enough to turn up to write something nice or to be on camera to tell people about it.
Google reviews or Facebook,
I mean,
everything?
all people might, like, I know, I can see the SEO that people are searching. They'll search like one of my program or my app name, and then they'll go reviews or my book. So it's wherever your people are turning up. But at least you need to like probably focus on one of those. Google reviews is a good place to be.
Okay. Couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Lyd?
Daniel, just to test your non-scientific theory, maybe I said it further. What if that dickhead is your significant other?
One of the things I tell my clients is divorce is expensive. So
That's good.
Lyd? Yep. I might stop social media if it was
So like there's, social media, food, flying, yoga pants, match made in heaven for social media, it's everywhere. So this question's to Danny, because it's ironically how we started working together.
Yep.
I think it was around the pandemic. What was the motivation? Because accounting, social media, doesn't really, you wouldn't think of it to kind of come together. It's not very social, explosive, it's not going to get out there. Really, it was impressive. And so what was the motivation to get that going?
So we grew the business pretty significantly through COVID, and I thank the government for that, because they brought out a whole bunch of government initiatives around grants, etc., and made the accountants the gatekeeper to those grants. So our phones didn't stop, but what we saw internally was an opportunity where social media only has, like, in my opinion, 3 ways that we can kind of grow it. We can educate, entertain, or be really pretty. And I'm not really pretty, I wasn't entertaining, so I went to education. And we took those grants as an opportunity to go, there's so much confusion, so many people were scared, people were like fearful of losing their businesses overnight, like business owners were really worried. And so we took that opportunity to go, all right, we can take this information, we can turn it around really quickly and educate them on what's happening, how they can get help from the government, and obviously we can help them do that, but we didn't push that piece whatsoever. We just went straight down education. This is what's happening. We're here to help, and we just kind of doubled down on that.
All right. Look, guys. Jeremy, got 2 more, and then last call for any questions. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up after this.
And thank each of you for sharing your insights. On my way here, I definitely stalked each of your LinkedIns, so this question's for Steve. It was also the first time that I saw someone with 30,000 connections, so was there any particular tactic or strategy that you used to hit that number?
Yeah, I remember I was on a cruise to New Zealand once over Christmas, and this probably about 5 years ago. I had probably just under 4,000 connections then. And back then, LinkedIn, you could sort of like just connect to people, like send a request out without any risk of being put in LinkedIn jail. So I just wanted to get to the next 1,000. But the problem is that you sent so many requests out that you got to 5,000 and became 5,200. And then I wanted to get to 6,000. You always want to get to the next round number. So that was sort of how we became first 10,000 and more, and slowly went up. But then, because now you had an audience, you go, well, now I've got people I can share more tips with and share more of what I'm reading on a daily, hourly basis to them. So you started, because once you've got an audience, you go, well, now I've got something I can share. Someone's going to see my stuff. So that's how you became 30. And once you hit 30, that's 30,000 connections maximum, but you can still have more followers. Yeah. And followers will still see your content. They just can't send you a message, that's all.
Right, awesome. And I saw there was something around collaborations with other content creators that weren't in your niche. Can you maybe speak to some collaboration strategies that you used?
I don't really have any.
I've done quite a few collaborations before. Currently got a bit of a collaboration with Turia Pitt. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a bit of an inspirational Australian. Got about 1 million followers on Instagram, written 3 books. Pretty amazing. She talks about confidence and all those types of things. Her audience and my audience are very aligned. Our messages are very aligned. So for us to kind of bolster each other is good, I think. And so you're finding those people in industries who are powerful, and even in the same industries who have a similar, you want their followers, they want your followers, it's in your interest to kind of align a little bit. So it could be anything from having an interview on a podcast, it could be an Instagram live, it could simply be them providing something for a piece of content that you're providing, cross-pollination. I think it's a very powerful, underutilized thing, would definitely encourage it.
Yeah. Had one more question, I think we'll wrap it up after this. Two more? Okay. I saw that one, but I didn't see, yep, and then Aussie. Okay.
Oh, you go.
Yep.
Hi, so this one's pretty Instagram specific. When you're starting out trying to build your own brand, what are some tips aside from hashtags to get your content on your target audience screens?
Okay.
That's you.
Is that for me?
Yeah. That's a Lyndi Cohen question.
Okay, I'll give you a real life example of something I did this week. I posted an it's very neat. It's very specific to my audience, but first frame of the reel, it's a reel, okay? Let's be real, it's real. That's the way you got to do it on Instagram, I'd say.
A reel is a short little video on Instagram for those who don't know.
Yeah, under 90 seconds, and it's new, and as a result, Instagram is very much endorsing creators to be using it. And so it can be a 10-second reel, it could be a 3-second reel that you overlay with some captions, but it's video first and foremost. So if you want to grow, reel. I don't even use hashtags. I don't think that's really the future anymore. What I did with this video is I used a common asked question. So how to get rid of my lower belly pooch. A lot of women have asked this question, my friends. And as a result, many people want to know the answer to this question. And then my video was like a flip on this, was basically me kind of coming in and saying, this is actually, that lower belly pooch is very protective, it helps you, we need a certain amount of body fat percentage to be healthy. But basically you're taking, in a way it's clickbaity in that example, but I'm taking something my customer really cares about, I'm doing my spin on it, and I've engaged them from the very beginning. Those first few seconds are absolutely essential. We want to be capturing someone. We don't have time to be umming and ahhing while we're doing our videos. Once again, don't let you become a perfectionist in doing it. But uploading reels and making it engaging to your topic, I think that's the most important thing that you can be doing right now. You don't have to dance and point to things.
Okay. And Aussie? Yep.
Firstly, I just want to thank you, Tommy, for putting this together.
No worries.
This has been one of the most real presentations. Thank you. To the panel, I just want to understand your aha moment, the moment that you actually knew that you had something like a secret sauce that worked. I know, Steve, you mentioned people were coming up to you, and that's what's happening with me. People are coming up to you and saying, I've seen your content, I really like your content, I can relate to your content. But to Lyndi and Daniel, like, what did you guys see as your aha moment that you had that secret component that you needed to pursue?
Okay. Similar to Steve, there was that piece. There was people coming up everywhere, like family, friends, not everywhere, but family, friends and that coming up whenever you went anywhere. They're like, oh, I saw that video, can you explain that to me? That was one. The second one, which actually was probably more important and actually helped the business grow faster, was it was the parents of a generation of kids that are growing up from like the community I grew up in, sending the kids in to come work for me. So it was a recruitment tool and it was amazing. So when we started getting people coming through the door to work, that was like, yeah, this is working.
Ultimately, we want to do social media to feed our business. So yes, getting new customers, and for us, we're always checking how does someone find out about us. Typically, there is a progression from, if you think about something like social media, it's a very loose connection. It's a very weak likability. So we're just building up and nurturing that lead so that they become warmer and warmer and trust us more and more. So that's always a really good sign. The level of lurkers that you have, the amount of engagement that you have. So if you can if you can get comments, if you can get true engagement, if you can get shares, like I know a post is done well if it gets shared. Like that is interesting content that other people are vouching for that they want their friends to know about. It's probably you sharing it with everyone. Then that is a really strong endorsement, and once again, that's coming down to that experimentation. I don't think getting recognized in the street is the goal here. although nice.
But I also think that you go into business to help people. So you got paying clients that you help and you get them results and you're happy. But you also, there's all these non-paying clients that you can help through social media. So that's how I sort of see it, because ultimately, like if no one came up on the street and said they saw you, you sort of think, is my technology working, right? But because you're getting that feedback loop, you sort of get that satisfaction that you got clients that'll pay you because for whatever circumstance, you can help them. But you've got lots of people that don't pay you, but if you can feel that you can help them as well, you're sort of like winning on multiple angles. So that's why I think social media is great, because you're really just helping more people than the people that can just afford your service, or maybe just timing's not right, they don't take up your service.
Cool. On paying clients, you got a program or something coming out? I don't know, just a quick plug for you.
Yeah. So plug me. So I've got a new course. So I've been in business for 10 years, trying to teach people how to use Points to Fly. So I've got a new course called How to Use Points to Fly Business Class. So that's commitment to launch next Friday. So if you can go, there's a wait list. So you go to iFlyflat.com.au/course, and then you can put your name on a wait list. And I've yet to decide what the Black Friday deal is, so you've got to be on the list.
Get your credit cards ready, right? Okay, well that's a wrap, everyone. I wanted to say thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope you learnt something this evening. And traditionally, mobile phones are not allowed in this room, but with Des's permission, Des is the secretary of Tattlesall's Club, you can take your mobile phones out tonight, and I encourage you to follow each of the panelists here tonight. So whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram. And a quick shout out to people who I know who are very active in building audiences. I see Jeremy, hand up Jeremy, Davey Mack from Box Advisory, my friend on the journey, Bobby Lowe, Catherine at the Dinner Ladies. I know they have quite sizable audiences as well. And I just want to wrap up with some quick thank yous, and then, food and drinks are on the way. So obviously first, thank you, our panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. And a thank you to Tattlesall's Club for their hospitality. And very kindly, clap for Tattlesall's. And Tattlesall's have very kindly put together a neat gift bag for everyone here tonight. There's a gift from the club, as well as a bit of a memento from each of our panelists. So please pick one up on your way out. A few quick other thank yous. Thank you to Social Wave for recording tonight. Thank you. Thank you to my team at sfcapital, especially Fiona Yu and Alex Gandon, for organising this wonderful event. And a big thank you to all of you for coming this evening. So look, that's a wrap, guys, and please enjoy the food and drinks to come, each other's company, and don't forget to connect with each other, as well as our wonderful panelists this evening. Thank you all so much.